Hey everybody, it's Serial Killer Country. It's your girl, Brittany Ransom, and I'm here with
Brian Joyner.
And welcome to Season 2 of When Killers Get Caught. And today we are celebrating our podcast anniversary. 1 year ago today, we sat down and recorded our first podcast, a little scared and unsure. And now 250,000 listens later, we're stepping into 2022 a little less scared, but still ready to give you the deep dives that many of you came back for over and over last year. If you're new here, When Killers Get Caught is a 3-segment podcast meant to give you a little light snack as Brian and I discuss a true crime story that's going on in the world this week. Then we'll lead you down a path of lesser known or well-known serial killers and discuss their childhood, lives, methodology, and most importantly, how they got caught. And Brian finishes us off with an episode of I messed that all up. This is new. It's a new thing, so I messed it up. Should I start from the beginning?
No, it's okay. Keep going.
Okay, so say and Brian finishes us off with a paranormal palate cleanser. But before we get into the episode, I just want to let you know that When Killers Get Caught.shop is officially live, and look at this merch for those of you watching on YouTube or Spotify. This is our podcast merch drop. We have my glorious beanie that I'm wearing now and this rather snazzy mug, as well as our first series of shirts that we are calling Thicktids, a fun creation of some of our favorite cryptids from last season, stylized to be a little on the thick side. Our first Thicktid was inspired by the statue of the Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and it is right here on my pink hoodie. And she's got just a little booty tooch. You can't see the high heels, but they look very nice. And if you want to give our artist some love, their Instagram is bonesy_doodles. Our other artist is skm.artist. And they are both on Instagram. Scam Artist did all of our logo and the image for the mug, which I call our arrested banner. And yeah, anyone who buys anything in the next month is going to get put into a drawing to win some custom swag that Brian and I are going to sign. You get a personalized thank you from one of us, thanking you for being on this journey with us. And yeah, that's just it.
It's very exciting, and I can't wait for the other designs to come.
Right. Yeah, Brian's waiting on a couple of other cool things, like a cropped hoodie, long sleeve sweatshirt without a hood, right?
Yeah. It's going to be...
So far, when I've worn some of this stuff on live stream, people are just like, wait. So when's that hoodie going to drop? Where you getting that mug?
Oh, just wait. You'll find out. And you just found out today.
Well, here's the thing. If you are listening to this podcast right now, everything is up on the website. So it's whenkillersgetcaught.shop. And this week in true crime. So do you remember, Brian, a couple months ago, there was that guy who was way too into Q-anon, and he took his 2-year-old and 10-month-old to Mexico and murdered them?
Yes.
So, what I came across a couple days ago was, his name is Matthew Coleman, and he has, apparently devoid of a constant diet of internet, he's kind of come to his senses. They said he poured out his heart in a jailhouse letter to a friend. They said that he's really despondent and hopeless. He's reflecting on his mistakes he made in life and wondering if there's any chance for redemption. I doubt from your wife, bro. You just killed her 2 under 2-year-old babies. So
yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, it was August 7th, and the family were planning to go on a trip. So, everything was already packed up. His wife, Abby, realized that they were, all gone. And she couldn't contact him. He wouldn't answer the phone, nothing. He took their van and drove from Santa Barbara, California, all the way to Mexico. And 2 days later, he took the kids to a ranch. It wasn't his. It was just some random plot of land. And he killed them with a spearfishing gun. Then he returned to the hotel a couple hours later, and he got arrested when he was trying to cross the border back into the U.S. And for folks who don't know, people who get way too deep into QAnon start thinking about like how everybody's made out of lizards. They've merged QAnon with Illuminati conspiracies, and honestly, Illuminati has just become like a mega conspiracy. We've talked about it on the Patreon.
Yes, yes. Yeah, like when I heard about the spear gun, I was like, that's a little bit of overkill, don't you think, my guy?
Definitely. And I mean, he believed they were going to grow up to become monsters. Not like, you know, you're a monster, like real monsters.
No, literal monsters. Yeah, he thought they were going to be literal lizard monsters.
Yeah. I feel super bad for the guy because, like, the thing is, like, when Trump was egging these people on, especially, like, Trump was telling people to do things and get themselves arrested and in trouble. None of those people that he edged on to hurt other people, he's not paying for any of those people's legal funds. He's not helping any of those people out. So it's unfortunate that it took being in prison for 4 months to kind of deprogram himself when it comes to conspiracy theories. And that's my thing. Anybody listen who likes them. It's fun to like talk about certain conspiracy theories, but when you cross that threshold of thinking that like you need to kill people, you got to step back.
Yeah, you got to think about what you're doing, buddy.
But that was my true crime story this week. What you got for me, Brian?
Okay. So this happened, a couple days ago. So actually, I think after Christmas. So a Minnesota man, he confesses to killing his dad and his sister.
Okay.
He confesses to his brother that he's killed them. And the way they found the bodies, they were just like sitting upright in their chairs. So I guess right after Christmas or whatever they were doing, you had these two over, and you got two dead corpses with gunshot.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're just sitting there. So
was a table set.
It
just adds to the creep factor.
It doesn't say. So the person who did it, his name is Iben.
Okay.
Marchon Abdullah.
Is it a Russian name?
It's Abdullah. So I don't know if that would be Russian, because he's like he's a POC, so he's a black guy. So maybe it's a
different country.
Yeah, maybe it's an African name or something like that.
Does he know? Has he told anybody why he just randomly murdered these two people?
No. Okay, so this is a story that how it went according to his brother, who he told. So he said like his brother was acting weird, and then he ultimately he broke down and told him that I shot dad and sister like a few days ago actually. So so the smell was probably not that nice, just sitting there at the dinner table. And I don't even know if it was dinner table. It just says they were sitting up in their chairs.
Okay.
Yeah. But his brother went to investigate, or he got the police to come over, and they found the door unlocked, and then they found the dad and the sister just there sitting upright in their chairs with apparent gunshot wounds to their heads. And he's been arrested, of course, and he's charged with, I think, where's it at? It's second-degree murder.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure if it was like a holiday gathering that went wrong. It doesn't really
You can only wonder what happened.
Right.
Is he having a mental break or who knows?
You know what? It maybe because either he was living with his dad and his sister, and he was trying to evict them, and something went sour, or he
It's a
like
permanent eviction. Life eviction.
an eviction from life. But yeah, I think he's going to court. His first court appearance is January 12th, so
Okay.
we'll see. Soon. Yeah, sometime soon. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, I got for this week.
All right. Well, we head into my killer deep dive, and last year this serial killer was requested multiple times. I didn't have the time to cover him, but I aimed to please. And I actually had a secret Santa from Reddit who got me the book. And I assumed, you know what, that must be my sign from the Aether that it's time to cover Anthony Sowell, one of Ohio's most prolific serial killers, and also known as the Cleveland Strangler.
Ah.
The main source for this week's podcast was Nobody's Women by Steve Miller. And I think that title kind of gives you an idea of why he was able to kill 11 women from 2007 to 2009 and not even be a suspect, despite the fact that he had a criminal record. He also was known at the local hospital for being a rapist. It was a terrible time. This is going to be a terrible time. It was hard for me to write this one this week. It was bad from start to finish. But it's one of those crazy things. There was a stench of death that started in 2006 and went on until 2009 that they blamed on a local sausage manufacturer that was around the corner. They didn't check any houses, nothing.
So, oh my God. Okay, wait. So, you've been to Lancaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, on this stretch of road, I'm not even sure if it's if the factory's still there, but you've been past a hot dog factory, right?
I don't know. I mean, I've been by a chicken factory, and that's the friggin' worst.
I forget what street it's on, but there's a hot dog factory in the middle of the city, or not in the middle of the city, but towards the outskirts of the city, and you drive past, it just smells just like hot dogs. And I mean, I could.
Yeah, I can't. I know chicken factories smell really bad because of how they keep the chickens cooped up, and there's all that poop and stuff. But I don't think sausage factories are the same way. And this is a small one, in a community. These are houses, and then there's this little tiny building. It's called Raised Sausages. They're still around, but they're struggling. Partially because of what happened here.
Right.
But, every week, I can only start at the beginning. And Anthony Sowell was born August 19th, 1959, to a single mother named Claudia Garrison. He was one of 7 children, and neither he nor any of his siblings ever knew their fathers. His siblings who have spoken with the media or testified at his trial are Tressa Garrison, Owen Davis, Thomas Sowell, Alan Sowell, and Patricia Davis Thatcher. His mom, Claudia, struggled as any parent would with so many children, trying to provide for them with little resources, trying to get help from a system that makes it hard for you to actually do better while you're on it. And on top of that, Claudia was also supporting her mother, Irene Justice. The kids never really had a solid place to live or anything of their own before he was 5 or 6 years old. He was the definition of a latchkey kid by kindergarten. And for people who don't know what that means, because it's not really a term we use anymore, so latchkey kids were children who walked to school by themselves. They had a key on a string or a lanyard around their neck, and they walked home where they would also be alone for hours because their parents were working all the time. Now, Anthony's older sister, Patricia, had a very serious case of asthma as a child. And by the time she was 18, and Anthony was only 6 or 7, she had 5 kids of her own. So she didn't really have the time to help her mother with Anthony or any of the other kids. And at the point where Anthony's 7 years old, Claudia and Irene, mom and grandma, have a home with 6 kids. And now adult Patricia has another house with her own 7 kids. So I said by 18, she had 5. Then she had 2 more. And so what would essentially happen is that, like, whoever was working would be watching the kids. 13 of them. And by say watching, I mean not watching, because it's nearly impossible. Like, I worked as a teacher for years, and in the state of Pennsylvania, you are not even legally allowed to watch more than 12 children under the age of, I believe, 8.
I don't like any of that.
This is bad. And this would be hard enough in the 60s and 70s. But the Sowell kids also suffered from birth defects, mental illness, and some of the kids had epilepsy all up and down the bloodline, making it hard for, spending money on doctor's appointments. That's taken more money out of the potential. And there was both physical and sexual abuse. So in 1966, Anthony is hanging out at his older sister's house. He witnesses his older nephew take his younger niece into the closet and abuse her. At the time, he didn't understand it, but he began to look at that as if it was normal. Later in life, when he was psychologically evaluated, he told doctors that he was being molested as well during this time. He told the doctors that it only ended when he bit his older nephew.
There you go.
He said so remember, this is his sister's son. Sorry. Yeah, that's what happens when you have like an older sibling having babies the same time mom is. But he said he couldn't exactly remember when it stopped. But it's now August of 1969. 3 years later, Patricia dies of chronic bronchitis due to her asthma. She was only 27 years old, 7 kids, and all of her kids were moved to the house on East Boulevard with mom and grandma. So now there's 13 kids at this house.
God damn.
Everybody, all the kids sleep in 2 to 3 to a room. Some of Patricia's children didn't even know that Claudia was their grandmother.
They think she was their mom?
Yeah, I think so. And it was just so chaotic. And also, Claudia was really mad at Patricia about the fact that she'd had so many children. Kind of like, and parents were like, I don't want you to go down the same path that I went down. And so she didn't like her grandchildren. And the kids all knew. Like, if she wanted to talk to you or talk to them, she'd be like, go get that black so-and-so. They apparently said she was only nice to one of the nieces who was light-skinned. So a little bit of inter-family colorism happening there.
Right, yeah.
That's all. That house on East Boulevard is where the physical abuse started happening. Claudia was so stressed with all the children. Like, her and Irene were just working 24/7. Like, only one of them was ever at the house at a time. I know Claudia had 2 jobs. Irene was working another job. So with the stress levels that high, she started hitting kids. And it became like her fuse was super short. Your chores weren't done correctly, you get caved. Switch, extension cord. Unfortunately, this is the old way that older black folks used to deal with kids. And, we look back at it now and it's awful. And, I look at my friends and I'm like so proud that all the people that I know who have kids don't treat their kids like this. But I feel bad because we were treated this way and our parents were treated this way.
That's the breaking of, like, I talked to Tara about it, like, a lot, like, breaking that, like, generational curse and stuff. Like, we got to
raise our kids a little softer. And people are like, the world's not going to treat them that. I'm like, yes, the world is not going to treat them soft. So at least they can have a safe place in their home.
Exactly.
But in 1970, the entire family moves to a house on Page Avenue. And it was large enough that almost all of the kids had space to live in by themselves. A couple of the rooms they partitioned off to make 2 bedrooms. They had a big yard, space to play in. When both Irene and Claudia were at work, they would just play in the yard, climb a cherry tree. This was kind of the closest to a time of happiness in their childhood because there was never money for birthdays, no sleepovers, no candy, or any food that wasn't homemade, and the beatings didn't stop. When Anthony was interviewed post being found for his crimes, he said that his child home was like a war. Constant yelling and screaming, the beatings were brutal. Claudia would have the children stripped, and then she would tie them to the banister at the foot of the stairs and beat them with an extension cord or the switch. And it happened pretty much every single day. And sometimes in the middle of the night. Despite the fact that half these kids are school age, she would find like an unwashed dish at 2 a.m. and she'd wake everybody up for this like ritualistic public lashing that reminds me of slavery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And other times she'd get mad and she'd walk into a kid's room and just start beating them while they were sleeping. And the kid didn't even have any idea of what they did wrong. So remember the uncle, well, so Anthony had an uncle known as Junior. And at this point now, a lot of the older boys and some of the older girls are moving into puberty, which means that the boys are focusing on the girls. And Anthony found out that his mom had a secret stash of chips and sodas and candy, and he would steal it and then he would blame it on his cousin Leona. So he could see her get undressed and beat.
What?
Well, Leona says that he started sexually assaulting her when he was 13 and she was 12. And she said that before that they were friendly, but his whole demeanor changed after it happened. He got really violent with her whenever she tried to avoid like going up to his bedroom, punched her in the face, gave her a black eye. And Leona said this went on for years. Uncle Junior assaulted his own sister Ramona, and so did Anthony's brother Owen. Junior's younger sister Renee was also being assaulted, and this was happening every day in their home. And the girls were still being beaten by Claudia, so they had absolutely no idea who they could turn to. All the girls began running away from home in their early teens. And even once Claudia found out or like learned what the girls were saying, she didn't believe them, which is also...
It's terrible.
It's also an aspect of the Black community that, was very rampant during this time too.
She had nobody to turn to, and God, not even safe in your own house. It's just terrible.
Well, Ramona got caught running away. She got put in a facility for troubled kids. Leona actually followed her to the facility and hid there for 2 months before they found her and they took her back home. The girls were just repeatedly picked up, put in the center, returned back to the hell that was home. A system failing them over and over and over again.
Yeah, like, why would you do that? Why would you put them back? Like, they're obviously running away from home for a reason. Like,
I don't know what we can say about previous, child protective systems and stuff. But it obviously wasn't doing very well. Mm-mm. Well, Leona realized that the way out was to try and kill herself. So she went upstairs to her mother's bedroom, locked the door, and set the bedroom on fire. After that, they put her in a psychiatric hospital, and someone at the hospital believed her. She did continue to attempt suicide, and she ended up staying in that hospital till she was old enough to be released. She's since healed, and she's actually healed enough to talk about this, but, I mean, it's still heartbreaking that that's the only way she was able to get help.
Right, yeah.
Now, by 1970, Anthony's just entering junior high. Outside, he's a shy, skinny kid who gets pretty bad grades. He just wasn't good at school. He went at most days. He was just not exceptional. And he lived in a home where nobody was paying attention. So he was getting F's in, your basic English and math. Right. And, B's in, physical education. He would join, swim club or golf club. Didn't do very well. He did get good chess, which he played with his science teacher. And that did continue into high school. But he continued to try, and he was just never good at anything. Basketball, football, baseball. And then no one really understood why, but when he was 17, he just quit. He met his first girlfriend, Twyla Austin, shortly after dropping out. She was 13 years old and a freshman. She lived in an area called The Hill, which was considered to be upscale at the time. And they were just walking down the street from the high school. Anthony was finishing his paperwork that said he'd failed his junior year. And he said hi to Twyla, and they just started hanging out. She actually liked the things that he was good at. Boxing, which he did at the Police Athletic League. He was good at chess. They'd hang out in Claudia's room when she wasn't home. They went to movies. And she wasn't sure how, but Anthony always had money for dates. It was a typical, young relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is 1977. Anthony's a high school dropout. Cleveland is a city on the decline. People are moving from the city in droves. The town's falling apart. Twyla realized how he had all that money, which was that Anthony was a thief. He sold stolen goods on the street. He had a list of misdemeanors by the time he was 18 from being caught. He picked up a drinking habit, got arrested multiple times for drunken disorderly conduct. He also stole from people's houses, sold that too, sometimes assaulting the homeowner, got arrested for that too. And he managed to avoid jail time for more of the more intense crimes. And when he turned 18, he decided it was time to leave his mom's house. You'll find this to be a recurring theme when it comes to serial killers. What do you think he did next?
He left his mom's house.
Mm-hmm.
Did he go and join the army?
You bet your bottom dollar. He joined the army.
Oh, God.
Actually, he was intending on going to the army, and then he heard that the Marines were harder. So he signed up to be a Marine.
Okay.
Yep. Went to basic training January 24th, 1978 at Parris Island, South Carolina. And a month after his basic training started, Twyla found out she was pregnant. They were both kind of happy about it, and Julia Sowell was born August of 1978. Anthony did very well in basic training. He was first in his class of 40, top marks in shooting, great at hand-to-hand combat. He became an electrician at Camp Lejeune in May of 1978 after getting his GED and studying electrical wiring. They moved him to Cherry Point, North Carolina in 1979, and then in March 1980, he worked for the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing, which is an aviation unit that supports the Marines during wartime. And I'm pretty solid that my dad did that during Vietnam. He fixed planes on base in Vietnam. I'm going to ask him about that.
That's pretty cool.
His next move was to Camp Smedley Butler in Okinawa, Japan. Oh. And while in Japan, he met Kim Lawson. She was a fellow officer, and Anthony considers this to be the best relationship he's ever been in. Now, Anthony was emotionally stunted from his traumatic childhood, to the point where, an act of affection was the kind of thing that would bring out, violence in him. And Kim helped him to accept love and being treated well. They got married in 1981 in a civil ceremony back in the U.S. at the Craven County Courthouse in New Bern, North Carolina. They moved to a small trailer park off base, and that was where Anthony sustained a pretty life-changing injury. It's not what you think, though. He was coming back home from a going-away party for a fellow Marine. What was happening was that his sister Tressa and his daughter Julia had come down, and they wanted to still give their respects. So Kim stayed with the sister and daughter, and he just went to go say goodbye to his fellow Marine. As he was driving back from that little going-away party, the car overheated, and he lifted up the hood, and he was kind of poking around, and a hose blew off, hitting him in the face so fast that he couldn't close his eyes. The injury caused 2 second and third-degree burns and split his eyes. And I gotta tell you, I wanted to Google that, but I don't want to know what that means.
No, I have to Google it, but continue.
He was blind for 3 months, and they weren't sure he was even going to regain his sight. When the injury happened, his daughter, he just sent them away. He just didn't want them dealing with him while he was injured. Kim tried her best to help him, but he started picking up drinking a lot. She was actually worried he was going to get discharged from Marines for alcoholism. So 1984, Anthony gets sent back to Camp Butler in Okinawa. Kim and Anthony only really got to live like a married couple for about 2 years. And then they were sent separate places. And then in January of 1985, she filed for divorce the day she left the Marines. Just the physical distance being listed for the divorce. And Kim Lawson actually died in California in 1998 in an industrial accident, but she didn't really have any further contact with Anthony after the divorce. Now, after their divorce, he also got discharged. He was finishing up his last bit of time in Camp Pendleton, California. Like, his time in the military was great, though. He got awards all during the 7 years he's there. Good conduct medals with 1 star, a meritorious mass certificate, a Sea Service deployment ribbon, a certificate of commendation, and 2 letters of appreciation. He was promoted through his time in the military. He never got demoted. This is also probably the highlight of his life.
So, unlike some serial killers who actually go to like the Army and Navy and stuff like that, Marines, he was actually really good at it. And he enjoyed his time there.
I imagine, like, for some of the people we talked about last year, it was the first place that Anthony would have experienced order. Quiet. You know? Like, when it's lights out in the barracks, it's lights out in the barracks. You know, there's rules, and there's, you know, and you only get punished when you actually break the rules, not, you know, whenever your drill sergeant decides they just want to beat your face in. Right, you know, so it's a completely different, so in some ways it's positive for some people, but he comes back to Cleveland and life goes back to normal. Like many low-income areas of the U.S. in the 80s, Cleveland was ravaged by crack cocaine. And for people who don't know a lot about drugs, cocaine, normally you would smoke, crack you heat up, and then inject directly into the bloodstream. It is especially harmful because the speed in which it gets to your brain. People who snort cocaine get high, but it can take some time to do your job. And essentially, crack hits so fast that people addicted to it just keep trying to get that same rush that they got the first time they injected themselves. Now, before going into the Marines, Anthony had been smoking weed, drinking. It was a total shock to him, though, to come back and see, like, these same streets that he used to walk when he was a kid that were safe. Now, people just sitting out in the open, you know, smoking crack. You can also smoke it, too. Sorry, yeah. I forgot about that. They can heat it in a little spoon and then inject it. They also sometimes smoke it, but it's not good. It's what I'm gonna say. I feel like it's on par with like how heroin has been harming people in like the 2000s and on.
Yeah.
The difference is that crack is cheap because it gets cut down from the pure cocaine, and so you can afford a lot of it, whereas heroin costs a lot of money. So it's a different socioeconomic bracket you would have been in if you were doing heroin versus crack cocaine.
Right.
He also learned during this time that crack was so addictive that women would do anything who were strung out to get a hit, and that was something he would later take advantage of. But in the moment, he was a jobless man with a 7-year-old kid who he left with her mom and a family that was still chaotic and terrifying. He drank every day. He moved back in with his mom on Page Avenue, where he stayed in the attic, and he met other women, but none of those relationships were substantial in any way. Now, he got angry. Now, his sister Tressa, who's a little younger than him, said that he came back from the Marines more serious, and that the military made him mean. But I feel like we can kind of ascertain that Anthony had a bad streak before he went to the Marines.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Like, you know, I said he moved into the attic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Twyla and Julie were living in the attic. And he kicked them out. He's like, you can't stay in the room with me.
Well, this is our room. You can't stay in the room with me.
And he would just, like, drink and be sad.
No.
He actually started snorting cocaine at this time. He got arrested for domestic violence in 1988, spent 8 days in prison. That wasn't his only violent run-in. One time, his sister Tressa was in an argument with another girl in the neighborhood. And mind you, Tressa's like in her teens. And 29-year-old Anthony tells this other girl, like, leave my sister alone. And she kept talking smack, and he straight up punched a teenage girl in the face. Just straight knocked her out.
Ridiculous. Oh, God.
By that point, he was already on crack. And he accrued more criminal offenses: disorderly conduct, possession, public intoxication. Now, things get worse for him in 1989 when he refused to let a woman he was dating leave the house. She was 3 months pregnant, and her name was Melvette Sowell. He bound her hands and feet with a tie and belt and gagged her. She would later tell the police that she thought she was going to die because she was losing sensation in a lot of her extremities. For this, Anthony was charged with kidnapping, rape, and attempted rape. He pled guilty to attempted rape, which was the lesser sentence, and was given 15 years in prison.
God.
Now, you'd think attempted rape, right? I always hear, like, rapists do terrible in prison. Apparently not Anthony. He got along with the other inmates. They kept, like, giving him parole hearings, and he didn't really understand what they wanted him to do. The same line kept getting written in his parole reports: lack of significant programming. And what that means is that he doesn't understand that he needs to do certain things within the prison program to get parole. Right. And they would have him, like, fill out these questionnaires to assess his feelings about his crime and his mental health in general. And some of them that I'm going to read to you that are specifically poignant here. So it would say, like, I feel, I think, those kinds of questions, and they have you fill it in. Mm-hmm. It says, I feel nothing at this time of my life. I suffer no ill feelings. I fail to get myself out of trouble. And the worst one, most women just tell lies. So it seems in his head he had blamed Melvette for the fact that he's in prison.
For the fact that you assaulted me and kidnapped. You didn't let me leave the house.
You literally kidnapped a pregnant lady, and it's not her fault that you did that, but whatever.
Not apparently not. It's all her fault.
He had one weird quirk, which was that he was very serious about how people said his name. So apparently some people say the name like Sowell, because it's Sowell, and he preferred Sowell or Sowell. Mm-hmm. So that's why I've just been saying it that way. I don't know the right way. Listen, y'all been listening for a long time. I destroy names. So
same. It's Sowell. It's Sowell.
So it's Sowell. He never got parole. He never really got the point. And so Monday, June 20th, 2005, he gets released from the Lorraine Correctional Institute in Grafton, Ohio. He is 46 years old, and his sister Tressa went to pick him up with all of her children, because she had like 7 kids by now too. The mini mansion house that he grew up in with his family, gone. Repossessed because nobody could pay the mortgage. Anthony moved in with his sister and a few other family members in the area called Slavic Village. It was 9 kids, 3 adults. He tried to make himself useful, like cooking for people, and he would play like Madden with all the little boy kids. It was nice, but he moved out a couple months later into his stepmother's house, Sigurna Henderson Sowell. Sigurna was his biological father's 3rd wife. Thomas Sowell Sr. had died while he was in prison. He actually was 80 years old, and he fell down the steps in 2003. But his death certificate also said that he had prostate cancer, heart disease, and a seizure disorder. So they're not claiming the fall is what killed him. It's the fact that he had 3 major illnesses simultaneously at 80 years old.
I mean, yeah.
Thomas Sowell Sr. never really had anything to do with Claudia, but apparently he had reached out to Anthony at some point, and they talked to each other while he was in prison. So Anthony knew that he had a place to stay. He didn't realize that his dad had died, but he actually, in that write-up, the questionnaire, he wrote very kindly about his father, which I thought was very surprising, considering that he didn't have any contact with his dad until he was in his 40s.
Right.
Now, at Sigourney's house, he was depressed because he got some letters that said that he had to register as a sex offender, which made him one of 12 offenders in a 5-mile radius. And honestly, he felt pretty humiliated by it. He thought it was going to get in the way of him getting a good job, and he was filing all these job applications and nobody was responding. And then he got a job as a prep cook at Jacobs Field, which is where the Cleveland Indians played. It was a really good job, actually. And so in the middle of the summer season, he gets a letter. It's August 2005 saying that he needs to go through a sexual predator evaluation as part of being monitored for being a sex offender, which I didn't realize they do in Ohio, and I kind of think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I thought they did that everywhere, actually.
I didn't realize you had to check in every couple years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Brittany, yo, let me tell you.
Okay.
I've heard, no, I've just heard stories of, like, you know, sex offenders, like, not checking in for a while. And, like, the states, they don't check up on them.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I heard, too. I was like, people just do what they want.
Yeah, they don't, like, then they just go and live like normal lives when, you know, the reason why you're like registered as a sex offender is so you can't live a normal damn life. It's like so people know what you've done and stay away from you.
Well, this analysis goes it goes as wrong as it could possibly go. He shows up for this meeting September 1st, 2005. They immediately tell him this record's going to be part of a public evaluation. Like, it'll be public. Like, if anybody looks you up, they will see this interview. Mm-hmm. So, of course, as they ask him questions, he decides, I'm not going to be honest about anything.
Okay.
He told them he grew up in a crowded single-parent home, said he had a lot of friends, but that he was bullied and teased. He, of course, left out that he was a sexually violent child and that he and his nephews watched and also raped their siblings and cousins. He told the therapist he was never exposed to violence in his home or school, but that he just had a bad temper. Now, it was true that he had never been suspended in school and he had never been fired from any job. He told the therapist that he had admitted to the charge because he didn't think he had a good defense and he didn't want a longer sentence. And when they interviewed his public defender, James McDonald, the man was quoted as saying, all I can tell you is I remember nothing about representing him. So he told the therapist that he'd been alcoholic before jail, but that he hadn't had a drink in 15 years. When they discussed sex, he just straight up lied, saying Twyla was his first. He did tell the people that he engaged in prostitution while abroad in the Marines, that he did look at porn. To the analyst who looked over this interview, he seemed like a regular dude who just got a bad break on a rape case. And since the U.S. does have an issue with coercing innocent people to admit to crimes they didn't do, the analyst wrote, it is my opinion that with reasonable professional certainty, that Mr. Sowell does not currently present with the following risk factors most significantly correlated with sexual offense recidivism. Now, here's a fun fact for you that I learned because I made a video for TikTok and I was very angry. But the rate at which sexual offenders reoffend is roughly 22%. So about 1 in 5.
Oh, I don't like that number.
Yeah, for people who have committed violent offenses, it's about 36%. And here's the worst one. People who go to jail for any reason have a 45.6% likelihood of reoffending in some way. We have horrible recidivism rates in this country. Our prison system does nothing to actually help people and prepare them for a life out of prison.
This is so true. That just reminds me of that joke. Like it's a joke, but it's not a joke, but it's a joke. It's like, you know, someone got out of prison and then they went right back to prison like a few months later for doing the exact goddamn thing. Yeah,
that's one of the things from the TV show Orange is the New Black that they really got right. When Tasty got out of prison and she was back like 2 months later, and I remember in the show she was just like, you know, I didn't have anywhere to stay. Like, I was sleeping on the floor with, like, 10 other people. Like, there's just no. Honestly, Anthony had more than a lot of people who get out of jail.
Yeah, like he had a lot more help than people.
Yeah, he had a lot more help.
Yeah.
Well, his job with the Cleveland Indians ends October 2nd, 2005. He gets another job at a packing plant. His next big job is doing molding injection at a custom ribber. I think I made a mistake in my own notes. But it's like molding injections at a custom shop in March of 2006. It was a union job. He made good money. And especially that was like right before the recession hit in the U.S. Around town, he was known as a friendly guy who'd go drinking with you, but nobody ever got close to him. He would entertain people at the bar with chat about being a Marine, his time in prison, food, sports, travel in the world. He did make one friend, the owner of a convenience store named Sam Taya. This owner had been pretty kind to his parents. Taya was from Jerusalem, and he had a rough time as a foreigner in the area, and the Sowells had taken care of him, and he returned the favor. Anthony gave off a strange vibe of being both serious and intimidating, but also fun. So when people threatened Taya after he had reported somebody selling drugs at his store, Anthony kept an eye out and kind of the riffraff moved elsewhere.
Okay.
In that convenience store is where he met his next and last significant relationship, Lori Frazier. Lori was an addict who had gotten into a lot of trouble with the law based on her addictions. She was 37 and had 4 kids who were all with her mother because of her time in prison. She was turning tricks for crack when Anthony saw her holding a brown bag with beer, and he offered her something better than beer. Instead of this being a normal, like, John and escort relationship, the two of them realized that they liked each other. And they ended up just sitting around having drinks, eating some Chinese food. They went to his house. His stepmom was in and out of the hospital, and so Anthony was currently living on the first floor at that point. And they started kind of living together almost right away. Now, when you're in prison for a long time, you don't get access to the internet. I know now some prisoners have access to the internet, but not back then.
They got access to the internet and cell phones and TVs and
Some of them, you got to be in good behavior for sure.
Yeah.
But Anthony got home and he realized that the internet was a thing. The internet wasn't a thing when he went to prison. He made an account on certain alternative sex websites where he was free to talk to people about these dark fantasies he possessed. He wrote himself as a dominant looking for a submissive. He was active on Black Planet. Both places he said he was single. And he ended up telling Lori he wanted to bring another woman into the bedroom. Lori was like, all right. Now, things are going well for Anthony. And this is the year that people start noticing an odd smell on the block. 2006. Lori brought it up to him first, and he told her it was his stepmom. At this point, he had moved up to the 3rd floor, and there was another family on the 2nd floor, and his mom was on the 1st. So he was blaming it on her being, like, bedridden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then the middle family assumed that it was an animal that had crawled up under the house and died. He told his nephews who came to visit that the basement flooded. The neighbors blamed it on Ray's sausage that was next door. The city health department is getting complaints nonstop. Like, somebody even said to the police, it smells like there's a dead body on this block.
Oh, God.
Now, Renee Cash had inherited kind of the business from her family, and she ran it with her siblings, and they were running Ray's sausage. So the health department required them to pretty much rip up the ground in front of the plant and change out all of the grates where the leftovers and blood and stuff went.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It cost the company $30,000.
Oh, God.
And nothing changed. The health department was constantly checking the shop for cleanliness. Nothing was ever found. And that's, of course, because it wasn't Ray's sausage.
Yeah.
The smoke coincidentally started when Lori and Anthony were on the rocks. So, Lori was always a crack addict, but she had a rule. We can't be together if you use crack too. And Anthony hid it from her, and she realized something was wrong. And slowly, dealers and other people would show up to the house at random times. They started fighting over who was getting what from which dealer, who was using more, who was spending more of their money. Those arguments moved into violent fights between the couple. By June of 2006, Anthony doesn't even have the money to pay for his stepmother, like, rent. And Sigourney was actually trying to kick him out because she realized he was using drugs.
Mm-hmm.
The first of the major breakups happened shortly after that, when Anthony got $3,000 from his tax return. And Lori came home to a house party with kids as young as 15. Kids were as young as 15, all over the house, drinking, doing drugs.
Oh my God.
People in the house, like, people at the door are like, she said at one point there were, like, kids down behind the furnace, like, hooking up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, she was trying to look for Anthony, and people were like, he's not here. And so she saw it, like, it was a very public, like, humiliation. So she went back to her sister's place, and she was really upset. This would start their on-again, off-again status that went on for quite some time. They would go back to date. They'd start fighting again. Anthony would tell her to leave. The family on the second floor were the Pompeys. So it's middle of 2006. Pompeys go downstairs and they see a piece of shirt tied to one of their cars. And for people who didn't grow up in the hood, this is a sign that drugs are being sold at the property where the car is. The Pompeys are like, you know what? I have had enough. And they move out, leaving his stepmother on the first floor and him on the third. Now, winter of 2007, so just after the season turned, Anthony suffers a heart attack and he doesn't realize it. He just realizes that he's sick. He doesn't go to the VA for like 3 weeks. And by the time they look at him, he suffered major heart damage. He also was dealing with atrial fibrillation, which is when your heart randomly just speeds up for no reason. It took until February 26th. Well, not even that. By February 26th, they thought he was dying. They ended up giving him a temporary pacemaker, and it actually worked. But they weren't sure that the pacemaker was going to stop the fibrillation. They told him he was going to need therapy, but they weren't going to pay for it because that's how the VA treats veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And the bill for the multiple pacemakers and everything was $200,000.
Oh my God, no.
Which he obviously didn't have. He never went to therapy for his heart.
Right.
He ended up having another small attack at the machinist job, and he had to quit. Now, he and Lori are on the outs. She would disappear for days on end. Her kids wouldn't even know where she was, and they would call him and be like, where's Mom? And then he would be mad at her when she came back, and he'd be like, yo, your kids are calling me crying. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She's like, mind your business.
Well, it's kind of my business now because your kids are, like, involving me in this. So.
I know. He starts using again despite the fact that the man has a heart condition and should not be doing any sort of major drugs. Anthony's first victim was May of 2007. She went missing on Mother's Day, and her name was Crystal Dozier. Crystal's son knew that his mom used drugs, and he even reported the fact that she went to Anthony Sowell's house to score, but the police never filed a report and they never checked Anthony's house. June of 2007, heat ramps up in Cleveland. The bad smells start again. People call the health department over and over. Nothing comes from it. Now that same month, Sam Taya has that corner store on the block. One of his employees says, like, yo, there's something nasty out in the dumpster. So he goes out there and he sees these, like, 2 packages. They're, like, wrapped up in plastic, so you can't tell what they are. But there's, like, it smells awful, like death, and there's flies around it. And then he's just like, I don't have time for this right now. I'll check it later. I'll check it later. Later that day, the dump trucks take it away. It's never thought about again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the rest of 2007, nothing else happens. But in early 2008, Lori comes home and finds the entire third floor apartment covered in blood. Like walls, floor, bed. He had tried to clean it up some, and he just told her that someone had tried to rob him, and they'd gotten into a fight, but the person was gone.
Yeah. Gone.
In February, she checks on Anthony again. He has a neck wound so deep you could see the white meat in his neck. He told her he'd been attacked while he was scrapping in an abandoned house. Now, here's the thing. I list these in here as the victims that we know. But it is, considering the bad smell started in 2006, and he had multiple events like this that we don't have any correlation to a missing person, there is the belief that he had more victims. And that these were people who fought back. And either they were rape victims who never told on him, or these are people he murdered and he just disposed of them in other ways, like the dumpster. A month later, it's March now. Lori's he gets attacked again, this time near Woodland Hills Park. Lori doesn't really have time to focus on him because there's a warrant out for her arrest. She gets caught March 6, 2008, and ends up having to battle with the courts until August of 2008. Strangely enough, though, Anthony supports her the whole way. Testifies for her. It's just she's a wonderful person. She really helped me when I got out of prison, yada, yada, yada. So she ends up not going to jail. But she didn't go back to Anthony.
Of course.
He was very upset. He bagged up all of her stuff and he dropped it off at a friend's house. And by the time when she went to the friend's house, she opened the bag and everything was cut up into pieces.
Talk about petty.
And the thing is, Lori broke up with him because she heard that while she was in county jail, he was having women over the house. And he was. Women who he murdered. She didn't know about that part yet. But
Not yet. You'll find out. Just wait.
Well, his second victim was Tashana Culver, and she was last seen May 21st, 2008. Almost all of Anthony's victims, it's the same MO. They come from broken homes, have horrible lives that lead to drug addiction, criminal prosecution, which make them people that no one is really looking after. Tashana was the same thing. She had a domestic violence charge with her ex. She was part of a work release program, and then she just disappeared, and the courts just decided, oh, she must have just skipped, and she's gone. All they know is that at some point she left work, she met Anthony, went to his house, and never came out. His third victim was LaShonda Long. She was a Cleveland native with a long history of abuse, drug convictions. She had stopped returning her family's calls in May of 2008, but she was living with a boyfriend in August of 2008. Her boyfriend obviously didn't give too much of a damn because all they did was make up flyers and put them all around the neighborhood. She was never officially filed as a missing person.
Wow.
Now, Anthony kidnapped and failed to kill Vanessa Gay in September of 2008. She met him on the street sometime in August. The two were familiar with each other. They would get high together from time to time, but he never made a move to hurt her until he invited her to his house on his birthday, August 19th. He attacked her in the home and tried to choke her with an extension cord so that he could rape her. Vanessa was able to fight him off. She never spoke about this to anybody until he was arrested because she didn't believe that anybody would believe her.
Right.
She would later tell detectives that the same night she was attacked, she saw a decapitated head in Anthony's apartment. That was his MO. Choke them, rape them, kill them. His fourth victim was Michelle Mason, missing in October of 2008. Just like LaShonda, Michelle's family peppered the neighborhood with photos. They knew that she'd been hanging out with Anthony, and they didn't want her to be near him. Her parents even mentioned to the cops this man that she was hanging out with as a convicted sex offender, but they told the family that this wasn't enough evidence to get a search. Victim,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, it is. Sorry.
Yeah, well, victim number 5, Tanya Carmichael. Her parents realized she was missing in November of 2008 and that she just wasn't responding to them. And she wasn't even from Cleveland, but that they knew that she was there. So they come to Cleveland. They show up at the Warrensville police station on November 2008. They ask if they could submitting like a missing persons report. For some reason, they don't do it. And so the family starts their own search for her. People on the block say, like, yo, we saw her around Imperial Street, which is the street where Anthony lived. Mm-hmm. Her mom goes to try and file a report at the 4th District Station, which covers Imperial Street. And they won't take her report. Cleveland police deny this vehemently. Her mother finds her missing car near the corner of 118th Street and Kinsman Street, which is about a 10-minute walk to Anthony Sowell's house. Tanya's mom goes back to the 4th District and it's just like, she was obviously in your district. Her car's here. Like, help us out. And the 4th District police tell her, no, go back to Warrensville, file the missing persons report there because you said that's where she was living.
But she was here. She ended up missing here. So when y'all do the search here?
Yeah, right. Well, Warrensville takes the report. But at this time, so much time has passed that, like, you're starting a week behind. When people go missing, you got 24 hours to do something to find people.
Like 24 to 48 hours, and you got you're definitely behind on that. And
so,
like, it's sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was gonna say it's just funny. Like, you get all these people that are coming. Like, hey, my family member is missing, and it just happens to be around the same area.
Right? No one's making the issue that, like, women are going missing left and right, specifically around Imperial Street.
Yeah.
Within, like, a several block radius. But regardless, just like the other women, time passes, Tanya's forgotten. Now, Gladys Wade would be the second woman who survived her encounter with Anthony that we know of. That happened December of 2008. Gladys was a hardcore crack addict who had actually dropped out of college just before she was done, like 2 months before she was finished.
Oh, come on.
Because she was so addicted to drugs. That's what it does to you, man. Like, there's some stuff, not even once. No heroin, no crack, no cocaine, no Molly. Drugs that you can, like, have horrible side effects the first time you take them, not even once.
Yeah.
December 8th, 2008, she'd actually just gotten out of county jail. Her and her boyfriend got in trouble for attacking the apartment's maintenance man. Now, Gladys had a sister. Her sister was Twyla. And so after she gets out of jail, she goes to visit Twyla. That's the mother of Anthony's child.
Uh-huh.
She stopped at the corner store on Imperial and 123rd Street. And that's where she met Anthony. He offered to buy her a beer. She was like, no thanks. And as he was leaving the area, he grabbed her from behind in a chokehold. Cutting off her hair, she passed out and he took her into the house. As soon as she woke up, she started screaming as Anthony is, like, yelling at her to take off her clothes. Gladys fought back viciously. The two end up falling down, like, the first flight of stairs from the 3rd to the 2nd floor during the encounter. Her hand goes through a glass pane, causing a laceration in her hand. There's blood everywhere. They fall down another flight of steps before Anthony is just like, this is too much! She runs across the street to the pizza place. They call the police. They didn't want her to be in the building because she was, like, just bleeding everywhere.
Yeah.
She overhears Anthony telling neighbors that some woman had tried to rob him and he hit her, and that's why there's blood in the snow. Gladys takes off running into the night until she finds another set of cops, and they get her an EMT. They take her testimony. That night, they take Anthony in. He's cuffed. The flaw here was that he actually hadn't succeeded in doing anything. Sure, there was a record. He raped somebody in the past.
Yeah, but he kind of, like, drug her off the street, too, so wasn't it, like...
He did. You're not wrong. But he was he was released based on something called a straight release. And honestly, Gladys had never heard of that ever happening before, but it is a political thing where essentially it was a 24-hour, like you have 24 hours to get the charges together or they release the criminal. This was something that only existed in Cleveland in the 90s and like the early 2000s. And the problem was with the straight release is that criminals would use aliases, which hindered the indictment process. They just lied, and it took the police too long. Like they missed the 24-hour window, and the person got released. And that's exactly what happened here. When they failed to be able to come up with enough evidence to prove that, like it was he said, she said, they released him on December 10th. They said Gladys wasn't a credible witness.
Okay.
Victim number 6 is Kim Smith. She went by the name Candy on the street, went missing January 17th, 2009. She lived with her dad, and actually they were really close. She had gone out for a night of like fun, and she never came home. Her dad, Donald Smith, like absolutely loved the crap out of his daughter, but she developed a drug problem in college. She actually worked the street around Imperial, and she went missing while she was working. He put out a reward for $500 for information for his daughter, but he never contacted the Cleveland police because he didn't believe in their ability to help him find his daughter.
I mean, you ain't wrong there, but...
Yeah. And there's a lull in kidnappings after this, probably because of the fight with Gladys and the subsequent arrest. So I think he was trying to be a little bit more discerning. But either way, no one goes missing until April. That Tanya Doss escaped in April, and Imelda Hunter and Nancy Cobbs both disappeared in April. So things are ramping up. Now, Tanya Doss had been an ex of Anthony's before he dated Lori. And I guess she had fixed in her head that she was gonna get him back. So they started like being, nice to each other again. She comes see him in the home. April 21st, everything's going cool. They smoked, they watched the game, and then just one moment when Tanya's not paying attention, he just straight up like knocks her down on the bed. She described it as like Jekyll and Hyde. And she opted to comply instead of fight. And the following morning, she told him she had to go check on her granddaughter, and he let her go. Tanya never told the police because she was worried that she'd get arrested because they'd both been smoking crack the night before.
You can't tell them that. Just, hey, this guy assaulted me.
Well, the last time Imelda Hunter was seen was a few days before Tanya's attack on April 18th. Imelda was also an addict, and she had an adult son who went to all her old hangouts and heard that she had been at the houses across the street from the pizza place on Imperial. Similar to Kim Smith's dad, Imelda tried to find his mom on his own. He never filed a police report because he was just like, screw the cops. Him and the rest of the family kind of peppered the neighborhood with flyers about Imelda. Now here's the one that really wow, I feel bad about this one. Tanya had a best friend. Her best friend was Nancy Cobb. And so after the assault that takes place on April 21st, Tanya tells Nancy that Anthony raped her. And she's just like, yo, it was crazy.
Okay.
Nancy just assumes that maybe he just got too high, he freaked out, and was real aggressive during the sex, whatever. Nancy goes missing April 29th, 2009.
Does her friend, I don't know, maybe report this to the police or anything like that?
Well, not only did Nancy's family report her to the police, Nancy's story was on the news, but nobody had any idea where she was. That made victims 7 and 8. The next attacks happened about 2 months later, June of 2009. Victim 9, Talacia Fortson, just like all of our other victims, troubled past starting in adolescence. She went missing just after visiting the Imperial Corner Store on Anthony's block. her mother, Inez, reported her missing to the East Cleveland police, and they gave her a list of morgues, hospitals, and other police departments to go call.
Boy, no.
I thought you would find that one interesting.
What the fuck? God.
We're not going to file a missing persons report. Go look for your junkie daughter in all the morgues in town.
Yes, go find her in a morgue, because she probably is. God, that's... Oh my God.
Yep. She called them all, but there was no... Felicia had just vanished. Victim 10 was Janice Webb, she was actually a former addict trying to get her life straight. She'd been going to AA for a couple months, but she met Anthony. She started using again. Even though she was back on crack and her family had kind of separated themselves from her, she still called them every single day. So her sister Audrey realized something was wrong when she didn't hear from Janice by June 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Audrey filed a missing persons report, and she did the same thing as everybody else. She started putting up flyers around Anthony's house. Victim 11 was Diane Turner. She went missing in September of 2009. Diane also struggled heavily with drugs. She was epileptic. She had struggles with her mental health. She spent her childhood and adult life in and out of the system. She didn't have a lot of family, and so even though people on the street noticed she was gone, no one ever filed a missing person report for Diane either. Now, Anthony is disposing of these remains of all of these victims in and around his house. And it's not like people didn't say anything. Like summer of 2009, there was a handyman named James Martin who did some work like to another house on the block. And he was just like, it smells like dead people here. Pretty much anybody who came around there noticed this just permeating stench of death. But the next two attacks would be the things that would get Anthony in trouble. So September 22nd, 2009, it's a pretty cloudy Tuesday. Latundra Billups remembers that she was in the middle of a pretty bad crack habit. She knew Anthony because he helped her score. She had been there with victim number 11, Diana, and Nancy Cobb. But because Anthony had remains on the third floor, they were now hanging out on the second floor. He told her his living space was too dirty. He didn't want to bring a woman there. So Latundra had heard around the block that there were some accusations that he was the rapist. And so she was like, yo, what's up with this? All these girls are saying you did weird stuff to them. And Anthony responds by attacking her and trying to rape her.
Oh my fucking God. Come on. He's like, well, you know, they're not wrong.
She actually noticed him pulling a white extension cord out of the wall, and he choked her until she passed out. Afterwards, she said he behaved normal. He apologized for ripping up her sweater that she was wearing, promised that if she came back the next day, he'd give her $50 for a new shirt. She made it across the street to a restaurant called by a man named Fawcett Vess. She started like sobbing as soon as she walked through the restaurant door. She told the owner Anthony tried to kill her and that she played dead to get him to leave her be. She went to the ER, reported that she'd been assaulted and raped. She talked to a counselor, and the counselor there said, yeah, you're like the fifth woman to tell us that Anthony Sowell raped you.
I'm done. I'm fucking done, Brittany.
I told you it'd be frustrating. Did I tell you?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, the problem is, for some of these women who are kind of transient, by the time, like the process at the time, like for Latundra, it was weeks before anybody from the sex crimes unit reached out to her. And there was a detective, his name was Durst, who did take Latundra seriously, but he had to then go do the legwork and try and track down other people and get interviews and evidence. So that goes well into October. The final attack that I think really these two between like September and October that happened are the things that ultimately cause his demise. So while Detective Durst is working the case pretty much, in the meantime, 51-year-old Sean Morris is assaulted by Anthony too. October 20th, 2009, she'd been out kind of having, day partying, getting high, drinking. She was sitting at the bus stop when Anthony saw her. She knew he had connections to drugs, and that's all she really wanted from him. She wanted to score.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a pretty regular moment, getting high. Sean went home. And as she was going to get on the bus, she realized that she had left her identification at Anthony's house, and she went back. When she went back into the house and ran upstairs, that's when he attacked her. He told her if she tried to scream or run, he would kill her. She says she remembers the assault being very violent, but she screamed for help. He ran to another room to start closing the windows and left one window in his room where the attack was happening open, in which Sean, naked, climbs out the window on the 3rd floor.
Yep.
Anthony comes around and is like, oh no, and he tries to grab her to pull her back in, and she straight up lets go, falling 3 stories to the ground, breaks both her hands, 8 ribs, fractures her skull, but she is alive.
Okay.
Now, one of Fawcett Best's employees is like, I just saw a lady fall out of a building.
Right across the street from me.
Right, yeah. Fawcett is just like, I am sick and tired of what is going on with the women in Anthony's Sowell. So he heads over to the alley and he sees Anthony down there trying to pick up Sean. Sean is just kind of like incapable of moving, just screaming help. Other people have come out of their houses and they are filming this interaction. Somebody ends up giving her their shirt to cover her up. Anthony tries to say that she's his wife and he needed to bring her back inside, that she had fallen out of the balcony. The paramedics came, and by that time she had passed out. He tells them, I'm her wife. They let him ride in the ambulance.
I fucking hate.
Now, here's the thing. Sean was, unfortunately, she was married, and that person was not Anthony.
Right,
and
so
she felt like, my husband's going to find out that I was caught naked with a stranger. So she just told them that they were getting high. She dropped her keys, fell off the balcony. Only problem is the balcony wasn't on the same side as the alley, and the police were real suspicious. But both Anthony and Sean said it was an accident. So the police were like, are you sure it was an accident? And she's like, yep. So they couldn't really do anything because nobody reported a crime. So Anthony thinks he's safe, but Latundra's case makes it through the department, and they filed charges against him on October 28th, 2009. They signed a warrant to check his house on October 29th at 6 p.m. 13 SWAT members show up to raid his home. Now, this is just for the rape of Latundra. Mm-hmm. The SWAT team walk in, and they're just like, this place smells awful.
Yeah, because...
So the team splits up. A team goes down to the basement. They're opening all the doors on the 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. 3rd floor, there is a locked door. They breach the door, and there are the bodies of Talicia Forston and Diane Turner. In the basement, at the same time, officers find freshly moved dirt, which is Janice Webb's remains. They stop the search, leave the house, and change the warrant. Pretty much, they contact the judge to get a new warrant. Screw the rape charge. Murder. Mm-hmm. And they contacted the coroner. Now, Anthony's not in the house at this point, but they're recovering bodies everywhere. One of Anthony's neighbors goes and tells his sister Tressa that the police are in front of Anthony's house. And as she walks in, she finds Anthony calmly sitting on Tressa's couch. And she's like, you got to go back and talk to them. Like, they're saying that they found a body upstairs. And he only says 2 things on the ride there. That girl made me do it, and it's all going to come out now. When they pulled up, though, he's like, take me back. And so she did. When the neighbor got home, she just straight up walked into the police and was like, the man you're looking for is at his sister's house. Mm. He admitted to us that he did it. Now, as soon as Anthony got back to Tressa's house, he took off running. He was staying in abandoned houses. They put a $12,000 bounty on his head. Crime Stoppers. Friday, October 30th, 2009, they bring in like a full forensic team. who find the remains in the property. He had made very little attempt to hide what he was doing. Most of them were found in the backyard, not buried more than 24 inches, which did not hide them or the scent.
Of course not.
Crystal Dozier was found with a piece of cloth wrapped around her neck. Her wrists and ankles were bound with wire. Tanya Carmichael was discovered in a shallow backyard grave, electrical cord around her neck. Imelda Hunter was there as well, a strap from her purse cinched around her throat. Michelle Mason was partially covered in the backyard by dirt and blankets and plastic garbage bags. He didn't even bother to bury her. Like Crystal, she'd also been strangled with cloth. Tim Smith, who hadn't even been reported missing, was the last of the bodies to be found in the backyard, naked from the waist down, wrapped in a blanket and clear plastic bags. She was also tied with strips of cloth. Deshauna Culver was found in the crawl space in the front sitting room, which is the same place where SWAT team member Richard Butler found Talacia Fortson, Nancy Cobbs, and Diane Turner. Tashana's neck was fractured and she was bound with knotted ropes. Nancy was determined to be the fourth body. She had been strangled, then enclosed in 5 layers of black plastic bags and wrapped in a comforter. A 36-inch shoelace and 12-inch long sock were wrapped around her neck, and her wrists were bound with other shoelaces. Janice Webb and LaShonda Long were also found in the basement. Anthony managed to hide until Halloween, so 2 days. And the reason why he came out of hiding was because he needed to get high. And a man by the name of Joe Veal was in costume, walking around like a skeleton. And he saw Anthony, and he called it in.
Oh, God.
He did it. He did get that $12,000.
I was about to say, he got his money.
He damn right. He got that $12,000. Anthony tried to play it off when the police arrived. They didn't have a picture because I guess cops didn't have cell phones like that at the time. And he was just like, what? 2009.
You had come on, you had that.
I don't know, but they didn't have a picture of who they were looking for. But that didn't really matter to the cops. They were just like, this guy's wanted, and that guy thinks you look like the guy. Mm-hmm. And Anthony tried to play it off like he was a druggie, and the cops had already talked to him the night before. They bring out a fingerprint scanner, and he's just like, never mind, it's me, I did it.
Okay.
He's 50 years old. They said his bond at $5 million.
Oh. Damn.
Which is good.
No, but damn.
Good.
Yeah.
It takes his lawyers almost 2 years to go through the thousands upon thousands of hours of CCTV footage of Anthony's comings and goings in the area, as well as all the documents and records and charges against him. His trial started on June 6, 2011. He was charged with 11 counts of aggravated murder and 74 counts of rape, kidnapping, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. He pled guilty by reason of insanity, but during the trial, he just changed it to not guilty. Trial took about a month. July 22nd, 2011, he was found guilty of all but 2 counts. The jury reconvened on August 10th, 2011, and they recommended the death penalty. 2 days later, it was upheld by the judge. On September 14th, Anthony was put on death row at the Chillicothe Correctional Institution, which is when we find our next flaw in the system. His lawyers filed an appeal with the Supreme Court of Ohio because his execution was scheduled for October 29th the following year.
Okay.
He had 1 year. There were not going to be 20 years on death row in Ohio, apparently.
No.
They didn't get an appeal, but they did get a stay of execution.
Should just let him kill him next year. Why not?
Nope, they managed to push it off. 2013, he gets new lawyers who say that he didn't get a fair trial because of the media coverage, that his previous lawyers sucked, and they had an issue with the jury being chosen when the court was closed from the public. These motions went on for a while, but in 2016, that appeal was rejected. May 2017, he appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. They denied to hear the case, saying that Ohio had done its job properly. February 2018, the Ohio Supreme Court denied a third appeal. May of 2020 was denied again. Pretty much through abusing the appeals process, Anthony Sowell was able to extend his life an extra decade. He died February 8th, 2021 from a terminal illness.
Oh, just last year.
Yep. That Imperial Avenue house was demolished in 2011. On July 16th, 2021, they began building what they call the Garden of 11 Angels. It was dedicated on my birthday, November 6th, 2021.
Oh, hey.
For the first time in 2001, the 5 women who escaped Anthony told their stories on an episode of Snapped on Oxygen on July 24th, 2021. Ray's Sausage still struggling to stay in business. Obviously, it was proven that the family's business was not the reason for the smell, but that did negatively impact their business for quite some time.
Right.
The city of Cleveland agreed to pay 6 of the 11 families $1 million due to botched investigations or refusal to investigate the disappearances.
What about like the hospital and like the person who said, "Oh yeah, 5 other people came here," and like.
Right. So that's not the hospital's fault there. All the hospital can do is take the rape kit, report it to the police. The problem is you've got somebody who's a junkie who's scared that they're going to be arrested if they talk to cops. So by the time the cops get there, the woman's gone. And so now they just have this report and this woman they can't find. And that, well, I'm going to talk about like part of why this is the problem. And give me my 2 minutes to grandstand. I know you've been listening for a while, but I painstakingly brought up each victim's history because it is an important aspect of society, to the story. Socially, we have decided that some people don't deserve empathy, they deserve less caring, less respect, and those people are always the victims of men like Gary Ridgway and Samuel Little and Anthony Sowell. A lot of times people ask me, how are serial killers so successful? And I have mentioned so many times in the last year that serial killers are not some brilliant class of criminal. They are exploiting a loophole in our justice system, a blindness that our system possesses. And until we stop ranking and filing human value like this, we're going to see crimes like this persist. I also think this is why I am so hard on cops in these podcasts. Because when a community does not have faith in the justice system, they don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Too many of his victims did not have faith in the Cleveland Police Department. And because they didn't have that faith, police were unaware that they had a serial killer on their hands. It's all checks and balances. And for the USA, everything is out of balance. And it has been now for decades. This is why we have the protests for unjust shootings and brutality. And I really feel like police officers feel like everybody's ganging up on their profession right now. But we want to be protected. We want to be able to call you. Mm-hmm. We want to believe that somewhere out there when bad things happen, the bad guys get caught. That's the satisfaction of this podcast. You know that when you leave the episode, I have told you that justice was done. It may have been delayed, but it happened. I wish there were more cases where I could say the bad guy gets got. It doesn't take 10, 20 years for it to happen. Yeah. The way we work on that is if we stop throwing victims away because they aren't perfect people. And we got to stop letting predators go because they are nice guys. But, that's my grandstanding for the day. I'm done. Yeah. Got a lot of feelings about.
No, I mean, but you're right, though. You're everything you said, absolutely correct. I stand 100% behind that. If the justice system worked in that community, then they would have caught him. So
I feel like
earlier.
the first woman who reported, but here's the thing, like I said, he specifically chose women who were addicts. And I don't know if it was as purposeful as, say, Gary Ridgway or Sam Little's was, but people who are streetwalkers or doing sex work or on drugs should be able to report that a crime has happened to them and have some reasonable expectation that it'll be taken seriously, that this is not what they deserve.
Yeah.
Because they aren't living the life that we approve to be, ideal in the U.S.
And that just reminds me of the Green River Killer. Seriously.
Yeah.
Well, great storytelling, as always.
Well, thank you. Well, what do we have today in our paranormal palate cleanser? Because that was a lot.
Okay. This one you'll find enjoyable. Okay?
Okay.
So I talked about 2 men last year. that had a knack for finding frauds in the spiritualism community and exposing them for the charlatans that they were.
Are we talking about more magic people?
Maybe.
What magician hates ghost people, mediums now? I wouldn't.
Okay, so it's this is not magicians that hate ghost people today. So the two people I'm talking about, the two Harrys, Harry Houdini and Harry Price. And it occurred to me that I didn't know entirely what went into like holding a seance or what was considered a seance, or
honestly, there's I've seen people just be like, all right, we're just sitting together chilling, and then I've seen other situations where it's like super elaborate.
Right? Yes.
So I'm like, well, who's right here? Do I need 57 candles and I need to know my intentions as I'm lighting them? Do I need a fancy table? Do I need a Ouija board? I don't know.
Yep. So, I wrote this down. I wrote it down, so I gotta say it.
Okay.
So, demons, your boy went on a search, and I got to tell you about seances today.
Hey, are these famous ones?
So what I'm gonna do is go over what a seance is, what's considered a seance. There are some famous ones that I read about. I'm probably not gonna go too in depth with them.
Why
but
not?
because there's so much going into what a seance is. And what goes on with seances. So,
also, are we contacting demons? Are we contacting ghosts?
Some people do. Some people do.
Also, I have this real wonder because I love my TV show about the cop and the lady Amy Allen. It's called Dead Files. I love my Dead Files. And,
okay.
Amy sees stuff that's not just Judeo-Christian. She sees some ancient things sometimes. I'm like, can you talk to those things? I just
they don't want to talk to us. Those not
right. Maybe they don't want to talk to us. They're ancient beings. They're just been walking the earth for millennia, and they're like, can y'all just go somewhere?
Please, you're so beneath me. Anyway, if you. But no, that's exactly what they're like. They're like, you little ants want to talk to me? Go away. Oh, God. So if you're new to this end of the podcast, the deep, dark recesses of the podcast, or to the paranormal things, you're probably like, what, WTF is a seance? Well, I got the answer for you right here. And according to many of my sources today, a seance at its the base, the core, is basically an attempt to communicate with the dead in the afterlife. That's it. So the word seance originates from France, and it means to sit or a session. So basically, what a seance is, you're sitting, having a session.
Can anybody do it?
I mean, I don't say anybody could do it. Definitely if you're sensitive, or you're a medium. Mm-hmm. Mediums are the main people who hold seance, or who lead the seance.
See, that's another thing. I have seen people who are not mediums do this.
How would they commune with the spirits? How would
they just try? They just do it.
Okay.
Listen, I don't make the rules.
I know. Neither do I. But people do these things. Oh, God. So, in the 19th century, English, the word seance referred to a meeting of people trying to receive spiritualistic messages.
Okay.
So the meaning of it kind of stayed the same, but so you're not talking to they don't include the afterlife. They just include that they want spiritualistic messages. So it's implied. It's implied, but it's not like okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So seance was just like a meeting of people get together and talk about weird stuff. So I mean, D&D night for us.
I know, right? Basically, that's like D&D for us. So a seance always has a medium. There's always a medium. And they're there to basically just channel the spirit and, help it communicate with people.
Yeah, something I would never do anyway. Even if I had the ability, you don't get to take control of my body. I don't like that. No bueno, no bueno.
So normally seances are attended by people who want to contact a loved one or a friend. Say someone who knew this person and, hey, I remember that one time this person had buried some treasure in their backyard, but I can't find it. So can you help me? That just reminds me of the freaking episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog when Eustace, he hires he doesn't hire, they bring in a medium, and he goes to find he wants to find his brother's treasure or whatever the hell, or a key to his brother's lockbox, and that's the only reason why he contacted. He didn't want to talk to his loved one. He's like, where's the key so I can get this money?
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it's Eustace, so yeah. So they also, people who loved ones, they also wanted to make sure that that whoever had died had absolutely passed over. They were doing well in the afterlife. There was actually an afterlife, and that they didn't really end up in hell or something.
So what happens? What happens when you find out that your loved one is in hell?
I don't know. Then you're probably talking to a demon.
If you're talking demon, but I'm just saying, you call up Uncle Charles, and he's like, "What up, homie?" And you're like, "Oh, is it nice in heaven?" And Uncle Charles is like, "Haha, I don't know what heaven's like."
Okay, how's purgatory, Uncle Charles?
Uncle Charles is like, "Ain't no purgatory neither. Sorry, nephew. What
is it hot where you're at?" Oh shit! Oh goodness! I'm pretty sure in hell they would not let you get a phone call.
I suppose maybe that's why the mediums never talk to anybody who's in hell, because listen, so if you're in hell, it's like you got curfew.
Yeah.
And if you're in heaven, listen, you can go visit your family. It's all right. Take a little, angel field trip.
Yeah, just don't tell them too much about heaven. That's all, okay?
Don't let them know that angels really look like monsters.
Oh my god, we all know that already. But
they're like, what does Gabriel look like? And you cannot respond. He has 27 eyes.
You don't count his eyes, okay? We don't talk about the eyes. And in hell, the demons are like the wardens. They're just screening their phone calls. So they're like, this seems like something I can possess. Let's get at it.
Your daughter called. Should I tell her that you're burning in hell?
That you're getting a pineapple shoved at your butt.
Wasn't that from Little Nicky?
It is from Little Nicky. So he did the Hitler. It's hilarious. But anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
In the mid-19th century, seances became hella popular. So that's the 1800s to the 1900s. They're just extra popular. People trying to communicate with their dead friends, do whatever forms that they can. Mm-hmm. There's also was a time when, frauds would pop up. A lot of frauds. And they wanted to make a quick buck at
their
the expense.
Elaborate table systems.
Oh my goodness, yes. At the expense of other people suffering. It's like, that's so, like, they went through so much to make so much. Like, I just want to talk to my grandma, and then here this person is
Okay,
like...
here's my thought process, though. Like,
Mm.
if you're like, listen, I got like a 2 seance minimum, and you like lie to this person and tell them like how happy, like their grandma was so proud of you. I know she never said it, but she loved you so much. And then like you're done. I feel like there's not that much harm in that. I feel like the problem was there were people who got like addicted to going to the seances, like the lady who the Winchester Mystery House.
Yes.
Like she was like seeing those people every Sunday, and she was probably paying them.
Definitely 100%.
Like,
they were charging for that.
Groups of mediums coming to her house every week. So I feel like in that situation, that sucks because you're just taking advantage of somebody. But like, if you make somebody feel better like one time, that's so nice.
Yeah, but then you have people like, was it Sir Arthur Conan Doyle?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, yeah, all this stuff is real. These mediums, they told me exactly what I wanted to hear and stuff like that. And they're just doing like cold readings and shit to them. It's just like...
Nothing delighted me more than when Houdini was just like, my mom didn't speak English. Yeah. You lying ass bitch! Like, he was like, any letter that should have come from my mom should have been in German.
Yes, he's like, when did my mom learn English? She always fluent
in German.
And the
medium was like, she learned it in the afterlife.
Of course, yeah, because everybody speaks English.
That set him off like nobody else. And I love it.
Yeah, that was the best. I will always stand Houdini. Oh God. So
you know what? We need to have like a code word for you and I, so that if we die, and you gotta let me know the code word somehow. You gotta get it to me somehow. And then we will have proof of the afterlife.
There you go. Well, I'll talk about that later too, about Houdini seance.
I remember that from last year. That was a fun time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is normally how a seance is set up. Like, I'm just going to like stereotype a seance, okay? So it's a dimly lit room of always, with a table in it, of course. Maybe chairs, who knows? Maybe you want to sit on the floor. Candles, most definitely candles. And you have a medium there to lead the seance. And probably your friends or families is there with you, plus some weird looking guy who's just like, he looks skeptical, and he's just standing in like the corner. And he's just looking at the medium.
Wait, so did they always have, like, skeptics show up?
No, I'm just making a joke.
Oh, okay. It's funny that you laughed, because I smiled at the exact moment you said that. So, like, before you even laughed, I was like, wait a second, what?
Yeah. There's this guy, he looks skeptical in the corner, and I was like, wait a second. Is that Harry Houdini? Why are you here at this very personal thing? When my family are doing.
Who would have said no to Houdini though? Like, he was such a star that, like, if he was just like, listen, Brittany, I want to sit in on the seance you have to contact your mother, I'd have been like, all right, cool, dude.
Yeah, but remember, when Houdini did attend seances, he had to go in disguise sometimes because mediums were like, I don't want you attending this.
They refused to do it.
Yeah. Oh God. And it's like he may contact the family, and if he's just like randomly shows up in a disguise, and it's just like, when I was writing this, I was just thinking of like someone just like him, Houdini. Like, so you're at like Sears or somewhere getting like your family picture taken, right? and Houdini just walks in off the street, and he just like, oh, don't worry about me. I'm just here to observe, and then I might jump in like a couple of your pictures too, just because. That just like it when I thought of it, it just made me laugh. It was just funny. But
like,
yeah,
they're like, listen, I just, I got a couple questions for you. And like, the lady's like, I came here and talked about my dead grandfather. He's like, just don't worry about it. We'll get to him.
I just want to see how you communicated with this dead person. Oh God!
While you talk to this lady, I'm gonna hide under the table. Okay.
I'm gonna. I love that thing he did with his knees, and like he could tell when she was moving her legs, so like
putting his leg locked behind her leg.
Yeah, basically, yes. Don't worry about me. I'm just, don't.
He's just over here doing like the splits.
Yes. Oh my
Looking
God.
like he's playing, what's that game? Twister?
Yes.
He's like, all right, I'm ready. Got one leg over here, one arm behind here.
I love Houdini. Okay, so anyway, at the table, the seance starts, and the medium, they enter this trance-like state.
Mm-hmm.
Which allows them to communicate with the spirit world. So they begin to channel the spirit. And for anybody who is confused, channeling, it's not possession. Channeling is not possession. Channeling is consensual. Whereas possession is non-consensual at all. Absolutely non-consensual.
I don't even trust people to wear a mask right now. I definitely don't trust nobody to talk to me.
No dead person talking through me. I don't trust that at all.
You better EVP that ish.
Oh God.
Just the idea. I hate it.
Yeah. Like, don't touch me. You don't have to like put your your ghostly hand on my shoulder. Just like, hey, stand across the room and just shout into this voice recorder I have.
And listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to like knock on the door like 27 times.
Yep.
Yep.
And that is actually like one of the tools that mediums use to get spirits to communicate with them, like get them to tap on the tables, or like something, a candle blows out, or some like
the channeling and the auto writing though, that's creepy.
Yes. Auto writing, I guess
it happens during the channeling, like where I'm writing, the ghost is writing through my hand.
Yep, they're taking control of my hand. Interesting. I see. Okay. And like the medium, they ask them questions and they answer them. It's like that ghost hunt I went on. It's like you ask them questions. Like there are different tools that you use to get your ghost to speak to you. Either like they turn off your mag light, or this light goes off whenever they want to communicate, like yes or no questions.
I think if I worked at like one of those locations and I pretended to be a medium, every single person would get a letter that just said like die, just for the spooky factor. Just for funsies.
Like, I don't know why. Like, I've been on this ghost tour like 5 different times, and every time I get a note that says die. Like, do they hate me? Oh my God.
Now I realize if I'm a ghost, I'm just gonna like mess up people's ghost hunts.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They're gonna be like, okay, this woman owned this manor and she talked about murder and ghosts her entire life, and I'll just be like in the corner like yelling through the radio, "You suck!"
Just fucking everything up.
Yep. You stupid ass bitch, you dumb ass bitch. Just
singing rap songs.
Mm-hmm. They're like,
oh my God.
Wait a second, does this EVP say I like big butts and I cannot walk?
What is a WAP? Why are you telling me about it?
They're like, apparently the ghost said there's some hoes in this house.
Maybe we should get out of this house. Oh my God.
The best part is like in the EVPs, like they don't hear it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like they'd be like, I don't understand. I can't understand what she's saying. There's what in the house? Shoes?
Shoes in the house? There's some shoes in this house? Oh my God. Oh. Now some mediums, some mediums did get fancy with it, and
Ooh.
they started producing something called ectoplasm.
Oh no!
Yeah, and that those were fun times when
What was it made out of, Brian?
um
I need to know.
sometimes, well, if for frauds, they were found out to be like made out of cheesecloth and stuff like that, like cheesecloth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That they would. Okay, so when was it? I think it was like when Houdini did the contest for like stomp me with your spiritualism shit.
Right. So did he just like scoop it up and put it in his mouth?
No. They actually like had labs and stuff like that would test this stuff.
I'm like, on site, was he like, yo, this is some bomb ass cheese, but this is not ectoplasm.
Cheesecloth.
I don't understand how. Okay, I need to do a Google right now.
So yeah, they would give the medium, not the mediums. They would give like Harry Houdini or Harry Price or whoever like was like doing the investigation on them. They would give them like a sample of this ectoplasm, and they go back to their lab and test it and stuff like that. And then they're like, "This is cheesecloth."
So I Googled it.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
And on the listing, someone has made a tiny little ghost out of the cheesecloth, and he's holding a sign that says "boo." But I'm like, here's my thing. Like, I don't understand. This is just fabric. How is this ectoplasm? When I think of ectoplasm, I think of Ghostbusters.
Well,
goo. You know what I mean?
They would put other things, like, it would put things in it. Like the cheesecloth or cover
Jello?
In, like, eggs, whatever they could find that was slimy.
Okay, so, like, egg white is pretty slimy.
Yeah. So,
okay.
They would do stuff
like
that.
Cheesecloth? I was like, cheesecloth isn't even gooey. It's just
no.
loose.
It's just something they could put in, something they could put stuff inside of. But yeah, you did also mention like automatic writing. That's also something that mediums use as well.
Oh yeah, that creeps me out.
Yeah. So, other than automatic writing, mediums, they have other tools they can use to communicate with the dead.
Okay.
And like automatic writing, it's basically, you know, they got their pen, they're channeling the spirit, and it's either like they're writing on a piece of paper, like just in front of everybody, and they're asking questions to the spirit, and that's basically the spirit is controlling their hand. Or there's this cute little game that's been out for, I don't know, like hundreds of years, I think, or something that's like that.
Oh, you mean a spirit board?
It's they call it a talking board as well, or as it's more commonly known, a Ouija board.
Not a fan.
And this is how they would get their answers when they're talking to spirits. So, if you don't know what a Ouija board is, it's basically, first of all, I'm shaking my head at you if you don't know what a Ouija board is. But I'll also explain what it is. It's literally like a flat board, and on it is written the alphabet, English alphabet. I'm not sure if I should have looked this up. If they had like Ouija boards for like other countries and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure other countries are smart enough not to use like Ouija boards or not to make something like this to communicate with the spirit world. But here we are in America. So it has the English alphabet, A to Z, on it, and then it also has numbers 0 to 9 on it. And in each of the upper corners, it's a yes or no. And I think in the middle of the top, it says goodbye.
Yeah.
Or at the bottom, it says goodbye. I forget.
Yeah, the bottom says goodbye, and like on the top, like one side it'll say yes, and the other side say no. There's letters in the middle and numbers.
Yes. Yes. And it also includes a planchette. It includes a planchette for you to highlight the letters or whatever their answer was, yes or no, or numbers. So, they have that. Like I said, it's also referred to as a talking board. I call it the don't fuck with the board myself, because I don't fuck with that board at all. Since you never know, like, if we're actually contacting a human spirit or possibly a demon. And just remember, when you're using a Ouija board, just, say goodbye. And if they don't say goodbye back, then say, I said goodbye. Just make sure you say goodbye. I don't know, like, I also should have looked up what happens when you say goodbye and they're like, no.
I think it doesn't matter as far as like channeling and talking to ghosts and stuff goes. Like they like you close the circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like if I'm on the phone with you, I said goodbye. Click. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Basically, yes. You could be on the other
Can't be
end
like,
all you
no.
want.
Yeah, you can be on the other end, but I've decided to like stop this. We're done here.
Yeah, this is terminated. Sorry, sir. Well, yeah, like Ouija boards, they were popular. Like, they were made popular by Hasbro, and like they were supposed to be like some type of like they were supposed to be just like a basic like parlor trick type of thing, and then people actually started taking it more seriously and like relating that to the cult and stuff like that, and that's where you get the bad.
Only ebbed on by the satanic panic of
Yes.
the 70s and 80s.
I kind of love that. I love that era. It's my favorite era.
You know, everything was the devil.
Everything was the devil. It was fucking metal. I loved it. Oh my god. But yeah, it's a parlor trick. But and I'll get into that as well after I talk about this other thing. So I wrote down like Bloody Mary and like Candyman and stuff like that, but I'm like, is that like, I mean, that's like a slumber party type of thing. Is that more like a summoning ritual for like you're trying to like summon somebody instead of like trying to communicate with them, because you're trying to like.
Yeah, I feel like those are not seance type situations.
Yeah. But there is a game / challenge that popped up like 6 years ago. Do you remember the Charlie challenge?
No.
Okay.
Wait. Wasn't there that like writer who said there was that kid that he saw in his house and he was sleeping and he had asked the kid how he died, and that was the one rule that you weren't supposed to ask. He was like taking pictures all over his house and setting up videos and things. Is that the guy we're talking about?
Possibly.
I'm like, I think the kid might have been named Charlie. I don't know I didn't know there was a challenge associated with this. It was a very good moment in creepypasta history.
Yes, it was. As well as with and Momo. I love the Momo thing because I
don't like the Momo thing. It was just a really cool statue, and then they like tried to scare kids.
Okay, yes, that thing. But then they had like the Momo, like like Momo was on WhatsApp.
That was just somebody being a jerk.
Yeah. But yeah, Momo was on WhatsApp, and like they would tell you things and shit like that. It was just a weird thing that happened. But no, okay. So the Charlie challenge, at its basically you get like a piece of paper, right? And you write it 4 times. So you got on a paper you write yes and no, and you write no, yes, no, yes, I think, and that's how it was done. And you get 2 pencils, and you like just cross them over each other. Like we have one pencil balancing over the other one, and whichever way that pencil went was this Charlie person answering your question. And for some reason, this was believed to be a demon named Charlie. I'm not even sure why a demon would be named Charlie, but
to, make people, less scared of it.
I guess. So, this challenge actually originated in, I guess, the Spanish-speaking countries. And it was just called the pencil game. So, it was like a magic egg ball. Yeah. So, this... Hi. Children.
Oh.
Hi. Anyway, so, like, people were interested in it because it had crossed, language barriers.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it was just, like, this type of game just, like, connected everybody together for, like, I don't know, for, like, the few couple months that it was popular on YouTube. And that's because that's usually that's where I first saw it on YouTube was someone doing the Charlie challenge, and they were saying Charlie blah 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 something. How'd you die, or am I gonna die? Yes.
Yeah.
No.
See, I get that the ritualistic aspect of it is the writing on the paper and whatnot, but I also feel like that crosses over into being like a tulpa. Like, enough people believe a thing that it becomes real.
Okay. Yes.
I feel like it kind of like Charlie becomes the tulpa there, and not necessarily the... You should do a whole episode on that. That's got some very interesting...
It's on the list.
Yeah.
It's on the list.
But that's how I feel. I feel like Bloody Mary and Candyman, those are all tulpas too.
Yeah.
Like, millions of people were all doing, the flickering light thing at the same time.
A lot of things could be tulpas, but we will talk about that on a tulpa episode.
Oh, awesome. I think that's a really great
yes
paranormal concept. So
I was doing research on that actually the other day, and I was like, this is so much. There's so much goes into it.
Well, I watched a movie on Hulu called Puka Lives.
Oh, I love that, yes.
And I was so surprised when they were like, it's a tulpa. And I was like, you're right, it is.
It is a fucking tulpa.
Only in the movie it actually has catastrophic consequences. I didn't watch the first Puka movie yet, though. The one where the guy plays the actual toy.
Yeah. I saw that one. I was like, oh, this is kind of fucked up.
I was looking for horror Christmas movies recently while we were on break.
But yeah, tulpas. We'll get into tulpas.
Yeah.
So, with games like the Charlie Challenge and the Ouija board, there's this thing that kind of explains how they work, or how...
Oh, I know what you're going to talk about. I forget how you say it, but I know what it is.
I'm going to try to pronounce it. It's idle motor. It's an idle motor phenomenon.
Yep.
Yes. So, I had to wiki this and see what the fuck that meant.
Well, it's interesting because for people who believe in spiritual stuff, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the ritual aspects of using these toys are more important than the movement of the planchette. And that totally works with this concept.
Yes.
Which is that your subconscious is moving.
Yep, that's basically what it is. You're like, I guess it's like you want an answer, and you yourself, who's holding the planchette or the paper, that paper that the pencils are on balancing, you kind of breeze into that direction, or you make your hand move into the...
I've read about this before, and they say that the more people are together, the more you feel like you have less control.
Yes. So you think that you're not doing it.
You think that you're not doing it, and everybody thinks they're not doing it, and together you're kind of all collectively hoping something happens.
Yep.
And you kind of make it happen.
And then you're like, who's moving the planchette? Are you moving it? You're doing it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
Well, that's the funny part,
You're
because
all doing
really,
it.
people are moving it. They just don't realize it.
Yes, you're all moving it.
Yeah, for me, though, I feel like, the ritual nature of stuff, like, I feel like repetitively doing certain things over and over again, that's where I feel like there's a lot of power.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, if you wake up every day and you talk to yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself positive things, that's a ritual, and that has power over you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are meeting up consistently with the same group of people and you're all thinking about the same stuff and you're doing the same ritual over and over again, I feel like there's power in that, and it's not a good thing when, you're sitting here like, we're going to meet a demon. Like,
okay, if you're trying to contact a demon, no, it's not a good thing at all. Fuck
yeah,
that.
so it's like you created a ritual now based around something dark.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like the board itself is actually doing anything.
No. It's just like something you shouldn't really.
Yeah, I feel like the power's in the people and their connection to spirituality and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. That's, yeah. I love that. Yes, absolutely. Oh my
But yeah,
God.
I thought that was so interesting. Like, ages ago, I was like, there's a real physical, your body has impulses.
Yeah.
Separate from you knowing that you're doing it.
It's wild.
How cool.
It's wild. So, I talked about the tools, of course. I want to talk about people who've actually, used these tools. So, and I can't talk about people who use these tools without talking about the two people who may have actually started this whole fucking spiritualism stuff. And that's the Fox sisters.
Oh.
Yeah, it's, I have their names written down, of course.
If you were going to say Ed and Lorraine Warren, that's going to be so mad.
No.
Thank goodness. I love Lorraine, and I will not stand for Lorraine's slander.
No slander in Lorraine today. But they were both teenagers. One was a teenager, the other one was like a preteen. It's Margaret Fox, or they called her Maggie, and she was 15, and then Kate Fox, and she was 11. So, hold on, I have the story. Oh, goodness. So, yeah. So, I guess there's a story behind how they started doing their medium work. And so, story goes that for like a week or so, their household with their parents and stuff, they had just been experiencing some random knocking and like a lot of noises and bangs and stuff like going on at night. And one night, one night, Kate, she's like, I'm going to talk to this thing. Whatever. I'm going to just talk and see if something answers me. And so she begins asking questions, just random ask questions and seeing if the thing would respond by knocking. She's like, if you're like a person or a man, if you're like a man, knock like twice.
2 times.
Yeah, like twice. If you died as like if you were murdered or something, knock once and stuff like that. And then like this thing would like knock back for her. And people caught wind of this in the neighborhood.
Was she just like, what's the word? Was she just like hearing the knocks of her house?
No.
Was it her sister?
I don't know.
Because that would suck if your sister's like messing you up.
It would suck. It would suck so much. So her popularity grew, of course. People from the neighborhood heard about it. They'd come over to her house to hear these knockings and then hear this thing knocking and answering her questions with these knocks or these noises. And they were just
cool.
They're like, oh my God, like you're fantastic. You're a medium. Oh my God. Like they didn't know, obviously they didn't call themselves mediums back there. At least I don't think so. Not in the beginning, but that they like Katie and I don't know how Maggie got involved in this, but Maggie ended up actually being like the manager for Katie. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So they were so popular. I read this. Okay, they were popular. They were used in 2 seances. Okay, well, two famous seances, and they were both done by presidential women. So the first ladies.
Okay.
The first one was, hold on, I gotta look it up. Jane Pierce.
Okay.
Jane Pierce. She had hired the Fox sisters to hold a seance at the White House, and I think this was for, I guess her sons, and she wanted to communicate with them, and it says that she didn't give people like what had happened. She didn't give them their, her reaction to their seance or whatnot, because, well, for one, it was the White House, and it's probably confidential what goes on in the White House. And two, this is another reason, but I'll tell you that later. But another woman who, another first lady who hired the Fox sisters was Mary Todd Lincoln.
Oh.
Yeah. She hired them to hold a seance. I think first it was for not Abe. It wasn't for Abe at first, but I think she had sons as well. So she was trying to contact her sons, and then and then she was trying to contact Abe, and then yeah, I was like, that's that's sad, but she also would not speak on it, but on their seance, but she was like, she wasn't very impressed and, stuff like that.
She wasn't very impressed.
So, okay, I'll tell you why. Later on, down the line, like after, these 2 girls are, they're famous for being mediums and stuff like that. And I think it's Maggie. Maggie comes out to the public and she's like, "Hey guys, just want to let you know, like this is her filming her YouTube apology video. I just want to let you know that me and my sister actually have been faking this the whole time." And they're like, "Well, how'd you do it?" And she's like, "Well, when Kate was talking to people or like responding to these knocks, I'd just be like somewhere and I'd be banging like apples on the shoestrings and stuff like that against the wall."
I said it. It was her sister.
I didn't want to give you the satisfaction.
I have it now, sir. I was right.
Oh, but yeah. So
yes.
Yeah, after all of these seances they had done and stuff like that, communicating with people, it was just Maggie behind the wall with apples and Kate just like going along with it. Now,
and here's my thing: nobody went, "Yo, where's the other girl?
Yeah.
Why is she not here?"
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
And this is like, so some people believe this, and some people are like, no. They were coerced to like saying this because, for one, they were alcoholics, and they died of alcoholism, and people were like, well, someone had bribed them with alcohol to get them to say this, and that's like that's why they said this stuff, and I could see that happening. Someone like with this, what you just told me today, with this horrible story you told me today. Somebody taking advantage of people in their addictions.
Oh, true.
And Other
I guess
people.
that's right. Wow.
Yeah. It was terrible. Other people were like, yeah, I could see that. Like, I could see that they faked it because they're two girls, they're two teenagers, and they're just bored in the house, and they're in the house bored. And like, this is like Jeff the Mongoose. Like, obviously that little girl had just made up Jeff and was just talking to Jeff the Mongoose through the walls. Her little imaginary friend that she has made up. But yeah. Also, I did want to touch on the Houdini seance thing, which is still funny as fuck.
Listen, I love the fact that Houdini was like, no.
So, apparently, he didn't only give his wife a password. He gave like close friends to him a password as well, like different passwords for each people. And like, nobody has gotten the password at all. None of these mediums.
There you go.
And yeah, just like that's wild. Like, nobody's real. And it's like, I think the last one, they did it last year. There was one that 2020 actually. They did one in 2020. It was virtual. They did a virtual seance, which was for Houdini. Oh my god. But yeah. What else? I also want to touch on like other frauds, like, I don't know, like John Edwards and Sylvia Brown. How what they do is,
Sylvia Brown is the one who said that the girls who were at what's his name, Castillo.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that they were dead.
The girls that were dead. Yes, because I remember the one girl said she was watching the episode. That's where Sylvia Brown said to her mom, "Your daughter's already dead."
Yeah.
And just, wow.
It was just wild.
That was her biggest fail of all time. That ended her career, I feel like. It's over.
I think you're right. Because she used to be on radio shows and everything, too.
She was everywhere. She was always on the Montel show. And,
yes.
I mean, all those guys, all they do is just cold read the room.
That's all they do. That's all they do. And that's another...
and like in a room full of like 200 people, oh, someone's experienced a loss.
Yeah.
It's starting with the letter J. There's got to be a lot of people who've experienced a loss, and it starts with the letter J.
I'd say yes.
And then the person will be like, "Oh yeah, well, my grandma's middle name is Janet."
Or they look around the room and see
Janet.
Yeah, it's Janet. I can feel a Janet. I feel a strong attraction to you for some reason, Miss Janet.
I saw a great one online where like the guys like pulled up the idea that like whoever they were talking to was like cursing at them, and the lady was like, "That's definitely not my grandma." And she's like, "Listen,
right,
maybe when she was alive, she wasn't honest with you, but right now she's saying some stuff." And I was like, "Bruh,
you gaslighting
you
me?
think it's better, yes, to gaslight the person and say that grandma is calling people names, or you just go, you know what? Maybe it's not your grandma. Maybe it's somebody else's grandma. But grandma's real angry right now. Like to go that direction. Wow."
Yeah, sometimes mediums are just fucking scum.
Yeah, there's those. I think John Oliver covered it like a couple years ago, and it was a very good episode.
He did.
About, just scamming poor people out of money, and it sucks.
Yeah. But that's all I'm going to talk about today on mediums. Or seances, actually. But yeah. That's what I got. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
So thanks so much for being part of our... Well, if you're watching, good luck, because I got hot, I took off my hat, I put it back on. Like, I'm just over here being crazy, forgetting that I'm on camera.
I also forgot for a second, and then my facial expressions. I hope you guys enjoyed those facial expressions.
But I hope, I hope, like, if you're just still listening, thank you so much for still listening. Like, roughly, 5,000 people last year consistently listened all year long. That's incredible.
Yes.
The merch is out. We got our Thick Dids, the Booty Man of West Virginia shirts and hoodies out today. Got hoodies. We got beanies. We got mugs. We got t-shirts.
We got everything except for underwear. Just give us a minute on that.
I don't know about that, sir.
Oh, God.
It's so great to be back in the saddle and telling you awful stories about how they got caught, and also, having fun with Brian. I missed it. It was only a couple weeks we were gone, but I missed it.
Yeah, same. It's good. It is good to be back. I got a nice little second wind here.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. We love all of you.
Yes.
I couldn't be happier. Like, that's the one thing I said on TikTok yesterday. I was like, 2021 was the best year of my life. So I was like, there's even more work to do, but I couldn't be happier to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same. Yeah. Good night.